Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's session titled Collaboration and Togetherness, the UAE as an Artistic Hub. We welcome you to the Portrait of a Nation 2 Beyond Narrative Talk series presented as part of the 2022 Abu Dhabi Film Festival. Abu Dhabi Festival. My name is Uns Qattan, and I'm the head of learning and research at Art Jameel, the independent institution, supporting artists and creative communities and headquartered in the UAE and Saudi Arabia with a global mandate. It is my absolute pleasure introducing and being in conversation with our admired guests, poet, artist, and film director Nujum الغانم, and artist and architect and managing director of IHA Engineering Consultancy, Mahmoud الرمحي. Nujum الغانم has published 8 poetry collections and produced numerous films, including 7 feature documentaries and short fiction documentary and art films. Her films have won over 40 regional and international prizes. In 2019, she was the solo artist of the UAE National Pavilion at the Venice Biennial, one of the most prestigious art events in the globe. She also received the Pride of the UAE medal through the Mohammed bin Rashid Government Excellence Award. Nujum co-founded Nahar Production, a film production company based in Dubai, and is a professional mentor and trainer in art practices, filmmaking, and creative writing. She is currently a trustee of the International Prize for Arabic Fiction, as well as an advisor to educational and cultural organizations. Mahmoud Jamil al-Ramahi lives and works in Abu Dhabi, where he has been an active member of the artistic community since the 1980s. Including founding and chairing Friends of Arts, Abu Dhabi Cultural Society from 1986 to 1996. He also became a founding member of the Free Studio Committee at the Cultural Center in Abu Dhabi until 1993. And his work has been exhibited in more than 25 countries. In addition to being a practicing painter and a sculptor, he holds 2 degrees from the Louisiana University of Architecture and the Louisiana University of Technology. He currently works as an advisor to a number of commercial, investment, and industrial companies within the United Arab Emirates and the Middle East. So please join me in welcoming both Nujum and Mahmoud.
Thank you.
Today, we'll first take a trip together to the United Arab Emirates of the 1980s and the 1990s through the memories, reflections, and the earlier achievements of both Nujum and Mahmoud within the Emirates' formative art and culture scene. And to kick us off, Nujum, can you take us back and paint a picture of your practice and also of the United Arab Emirates art scene then?
Thank you, Uns. And let me first thank Abu Dhabi Festival and ADMAF and the founder of ADMAF, Her Excellency Huda Kano. And thank you, Mohammed Kano, for joining us today. Thank you to all the friends and audience who came all the way from Dubai and other places. Okay, to go back to the early, let's say, career. Personally, I started my career when I was 17 years old. Sometimes I think there are coincidences, and sometimes there are planned jobs, planned activities, and in my case, maybe 90% of what had happened was coincidence. And I was fortunate to be raised in a house that appreciated art and culture a lot. So I had to prove myself earlier in reading and writing and in art as well. So my first wish was to be a painter, to be an artist. And I moved from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to join my parents because I lived with my grandparents in Dubai. And I started depending on myself, and I wanted to start to work at that age because I wanted to finance myself. And fortunately, I was accepted as a journalist in one of the newspapers in Abu Dhabi. It was Al-Fajr newspaper. And then that was in 1980. And then in 1982, I was accepted in Al-Ittihad newspaper, the major newspaper in the UAE before and now. And, you know, like I would say my career started from there as a journalist, as a writer. Now, meanwhile, I was practicing art, I was writing, and the places that the items I could paint in that period of time was the walls and the doors behind the doors in my parents' house. And my mother used to say, "You dirtied our walls." So after getting engaged, I moved back to Dubai. And after getting married, I moved to Sharjah. And then the other cornerstone happened when, when we met Hassan Sharif in early 80s, like around almost mid-80s in 84. And I could see some of the slides here related to that period. Now, when Khalid and myself met Hassan, he was just coming back from the UK after studying in the UK. And we were at the same time part of the founding of the UAE Writers Union. And we had some issues with the management at that time. So we resigned as members from the Writers Union. And Hassan was very excited about our experience, and he wanted to collaborate on different aspects, on the artistic aspect, and also he encouraged us to apply for the UAE Fine Arts Society. Unfortunately, we weren't accepted, but let me wait for the slide to change. When I was looking at my archive, in fact, my aunt was working on her archive, and so one of the pieces related to my work, my early works in the 80s, and that was a participation in the second exhibition of the UAE Fine Arts Society in the 80s. If you can just pass this one. This was in March in 1985, and you can see one of my early paintings in that pamphlet, or and around that time, before that time, of course, we issued Ramad, the Silsilat al-Ramad, which is was a result of meeting Hassan. And here is the second. We had first of all, we issued Silsilat al-Ramad, and then because of the criticism we received, which was very harsh, we couldn't issue the second edition of it. So all of us decided that we have to do something, and Hassan said, why do we have to issue something in writing? We can do something else. We can come up with an exhibition. And we don't need to have any person's approval to have that exhibition. We thought the whole world is belong to us. So we made some artworks and we went to Sharjah market, the central market in Sharjah, and we had this exhibition. This was our first exhibition together. And the top image on the right side, these are my artworks. You can see that they were bones. And Hassan taught me how to make the bases for them. And this piece with all these cloths, the orange and the yellow and the red, those represented each one of us. Those were stones. And each one of us decided to have a color. I don't know even what was my color. I don't remember now. So after that, I participated in that exhibition, and because of the criticism, and also it happened that we used to use المخرجة studio, but unfortunately it was closed. So we felt like we had to work on our projects ourselves. We have to to focus on our work more than to be part of the community.
More independently.
Yeah, more independently. And I decided to travel, to study abroad. And these are the pieces that I started producing when I was in the US. And these haven't been seen. I had this issue myself. I didn't want, as just maybe this is a very personal thing. I felt like I don't need people's approval. It was that ego of the young.
So this is the first time you show them.
Of the young. This is the first time that they are shown, and like it's part of my personal history.
That's really fantastic to kind of go back in time as well.
And I don't know why I chose to have most of them in red. But all these figures, by the way, they were related to my coffee cups. And I called this series my coffee cups, because the Arabic coffee, or what they call it, Turkish coffee, when you, after you drink it all, you can see some images coming out. And some people, they have, they like to read these images. So I created all this series based on that concept. I don't know, maybe it is, like superstition, but it was that concept that I wanted to work on, and I had all these paintings, like based on the small figures, and the figures changed here in colors. This is like the how like how they evolved, and you can see the colors started, and I realized that I was very interested in using the burlap from early time, and this is one of my school portraits.
Were you producing these during your time back here in the UAE after your return from
no.
studies?
These are all made when I was in the US, but they weren't school projects.
Yeah.
They were my personal, I would say, reflection on art, on my readings, on like Painting, I would say, is always like a therapy.
Yes.
So when I, like it's that therapy. I paint because I feel like I need to do something, and I am used to doing more than one thing at a time. So if I'm writing and I am stuck, I go paint or I go make art.
I'm really glad you shared these first scene images with us here today. To build on this period of time, Mahmoud, I wanted to kind of, talk about the 80s and 90s in that sense, were also a fundamental period in your practice. So can you share with us the highlights of those years for you and what those years meant? And we can move on to the slides that Mahmoud has.
Thank you very much, and very beautiful work, Nijum. I like the coffee. It's always amazed me until now. I'm a Turkish coffee and a smoker, always look at it. It has mysterious feeling. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for audience and our friends and colleagues. The 80s in Abu Dhabi and 90s, as my friend and creative persons, we know each other, Nujum. I graduated in the United States in 2-degree architectural and, as you mentioned, an art from Louisiana Tech University. But I want to take a little step back. When I finished high school, I went to study petroleum engineering. That's what the government choose, talented, engineering. When I reach America late. Therefore, the only place they can put me is in a dormitory of, people who study PhD and master. And who was with me? People who studying philosophy, psychology, sociology in University of Indiana University, in Bloomington, Indiana, which is very famous until today in these subject laws. And here I was telling them I'm going to be a mechanical, electrical engineer, and all day I'm drawing and sketching and loves to read philosophy books. For in the end, they came and said, why don't you study art and architecture? And this is how it began. I transferred from Indiana to Louisiana. And usually as School of Art and Architecture, you have to have something to show. And I had nothing. I just walk in for the interview, and he said, why you want to be an architect? I said, because I love philosophy. He said, go to philosophy school. He said, no, I don't know how to write good. I know how to draw. Art and architectural is the philosophy of visual language. Just draw it. He liked it. Therefore, I was accepted conditional to the Academy of Architectural and Art, 1980, because I don't have nothing. And here my story started. In that school, I was lucky that Louisiana Tech, although it's a small school, but there were few teachers came from South Africa. That year, if you go back to history, luck works. And some teachers, they had a problem in New York. They came there. My background as Mahmoud, Middle East. That time I was still rough rock. This is it. I cannot draw humans, many things. And these two of them were older people, physically studied in the Baha house. They came from Germany. They are old people. And one of them, for a reason, he adopted me. And this is how my mind developed the search of art and colors. Colors, lines, subjects. In 85, when I reached to Abu Dhabi, great friends ours, some Habib Said, Allah yarhamu, which I know him before, very famous writer, Dhabi Khamis, other people, introduced me to Culture Foundation, where I met people, some of them we know from America, like His Excellency Muhammad al-Suwaidi, he just joined, and others. And in there was a small section of art, Rimi Twalli and Mr. Muhammad Mendi, very famous, one of the most beautiful. In that journey, we notice that there are a strong group in Sharjah, Dubai, very matured. But Culture Foundation is the place where everybody wants to be. Here comes how to gather. Luck always works, you know. I don't know, miracles. Muhammad al-Mazrui arrived. This guy out of the blue comes in with a painting, and he insists he has to exhibit it in an exhibit. Therefore, who they send to meet him and tell him, kush, 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 is Mahmoud al-Rabahi. Therefore, I was looking for Muhammad al-Mazrui, and he was looking for Mahmoud al-Ramahi. Mahmoud al-Ramahi, Muhammad al-Mazrui. Therefore, what's your name, Muhammad? What's my name, Mahmoud? Therefore, we waited. He waited for Mahmoud al-Ramahi, and I waited for Muhammad al-Mazrui. He never showed up. Anyway, we walk out to Hamdan Center, have a few drinks, have a few bites, and we came out to wait for these guys, you know, to make a decision. In the end, this is how we met Muhammad al-Mazrui and Mahmoud al-Ramahi. And in the way coming back, we met a third guy called Muhammad al-Zawar, a Tunisian teacher who had carried physically 2 meter long by 1 meter painting in his shoulder, trying to show it to us. And that was the principle of starting the group of the Culture Foundation. It is people who worked with us. Majority of them in the beginning is an employee of the Culture Foundation. Very high talented people. Therefore, the idea came is not the painter, is the talent we look for. We had people, there are no membership. It is the place, the culture. Abu Dhabi is the place, UAE is the country. And finding talented people. And first place we flock is the schools, teachers. We brought them. We made ads, writers. We had newspapers, and slowly the number reached in hundreds. Then the idea is to teach Al-Marsam Al-Hur. It was a small area. Budget was limited, therefore everybody was volunteering to work. Workers in the Culture Foundation, they finish at 1, take a break, they start from 5, it's free. I used to work in Adnok, we finish Adnok, come. Therefore it's become a cultural group. Everybody in. My friend here, he was with us. He comes in our session, he helped everybody. It's a community. And yes, in November 1988, in a newspaper, you could see it here, officially declared the Friends of Arts. And it is, in fact, I read it after I sent it to you. It's read, the guy who wrote it, he wished that the writer, the poetry people learn from these artists to create a group. And to do so, have it like this projects to choose, is the subject of it is a poetry. That's a poetry. And that is a female figure. I draw it in one line to Mr. Habib al-Said, God bless his soul, of one of his poetry, describing. Then he challenged me that he said it one line. Can you draw with one line this figure of a female in start and end, last dotted? It was drawn in front. We have every Monday in an auditorium, Culture Foundation, the group, and everybody is open. And every month we have an exhibition open. That brought to Abu Dhabi the levels. There are so many us improved. These are some work. This is done. Both of these are worked part of during that period. Therefore, the 80s start Culture Foundation, Abu Dhabi has artists. I cannot say there are a lot. We're sitting with one before that time, but it has the picture. Now, in UAE, we have 2 places to exhibit your work. Sharjah, exhibition, and Culture Foundation, Abu Dhabi. That to wait, Plus, there were the other part that the hall, which we know today in Culture Foundation, was regularly open. And every week, every 2 weeks, there an exhibition, because you have the number people, which we find, you have the organization, people who worked, people who give voluntary. Therefore, it was, we do it ourselves with a small budget. That created international names. You ask, people start to call us. I mean, in that time, newspapers, we have written, we met many people. In the 90s, that's Muhammad when he had hair. That's some of the exhibition at Culture Foundation. In the middle,
That's you carrying your son?
that is my, yeah, that time they allow us to smoke in the hall. Before they changed the laws.
Different time,
That's
yeah.
my son and my brother, Ismail, and my cousin, and Muhammad in the end. That is, this is in our house, working together in the 80s, 90s. The 90s, the different is UAE and Abu Dhabi. The change, we cannot take ourselves from what's going. You know, although we are artists and right, and we grow, the country grow. The booming, economical booming, the architectural, the industrial. We have international companies, architects from all around the world coming to do this beautiful building. 90s, if any one of you, the master planning of urban, it's growing, the art growing. There was a need of a professionalism. This is where the friend of arts split and slowly. I don't know if you know Khulud we had in culture. And she mentioned that 90s, there were more 3-4 people, because in the beginning, everybody is part of the Friends of Art. Everybody can exhibit, including students we exhibited. Therefore, the professional also. In the 90s, become quality, because you have the mass, the level of audience, the level of artists coming from all around. Galleries start to open. Dubai opened so many sectors. Sharjah levels. You are growing with the government. You are growing with surrounding you. The Friends of Art, in the end, left to 3. Mahmoud, Muhammad al-Mazroui, Muhammad al-Zawari, and the exhibitions. And the Friends of Arts used to be only Monday, all but the exhibitions and the administration. In the 90s, our group become, another group was born, called Al-Wall Group, Al-Jidar. The idea of it is to take the part of here, the artists of UAE, and many of them around here, and the Arab and non-Arab artists. We start to group, some based on a style or school, some based on relationship, friends, and some based on ideology. Our group is based on ideology. There are 8 artists. Ideology is we all will exhibit together, and that's why the name we invent is the wall, and we hang on regarding of our style, regarding of our background, but we can maintain each other, and we'll leave the audience to challenge us, and nobody criticize other until the exhibition finish. After the exhibition, you can. Therefore, if you look at these 8, I send you some picture. We go back to Al-Jidar. You see the artists, they are from UAE, from Iraq, from Syria, very famous. The back. This is the last work. No, these are buildings.
Back to the
but I could
archival.
read the name. This is one of the exercises of the Friend of Art. It was published. This is based on a story. The Friends of Art, if we go back, this is the Friends of Art. But the wall, Al-Jidar, this is how the hall is. The full exhibition, big hall is full. and we work to fit it. This is this is the friend, this is Al-Jidar. If you see the names, it's well known. The one in the bottom four are guests. Every time we exhibit, we bring guests with us. We exhibited Paris, Amman, Cairo. The friends is Najat Makki, Ahmed Haylouz, Talal Maalla, Allah يرحمه الدكتور عبد الكريم, السيد محمد يوسف, الدكتور محمد يوسف, محمد فهمي, وأحسن خطيب. Well-known names. Our guest, if you go up, these are 4 guests. Every 2 years we make one exhibition. Munal, Khaja, Abdul Rahim, Mahmoud. This is not because I became known, because a good artist. He's Iraqi also. Khalil, well known.
Yeah.
Therefore, this group, the idealistic of it is to build bridges between society, not in UAE only, but
beyond. Exactly.
Is to try to break the ice internationally. I don't know if we succeed, but I know today, while we are sitting, tomorrow, if you put Muhammad Fahmi exhibition in New Zealand, he's there. He's now considered New Zealand modern artist. Yes.
It's fascinating. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. 2 of these got passport internationally because of our exhibition. They submit, they got. Therefore, yes, I could say, in a way, we succeed. In the last exhibition, we went in Paris, we call it Paris for Love. We had more than 400 guests, and we were invited, but unfortunately, the one speak English, to debate modern artists, because I exhibited this painting, and they want to debate me about that. Because I find there are some interesting people like me with this. Therefore, in a way, that the idea is to build the bridges between Abu Dhabi, UAE, and the world. Why the wall group, I mention it, although it's famous in Dubai now, it is the base of it now in Sultan Al-Wais exhibition, because the annunciation of a group, Al-Jidar, was November. I don't know, maybe I like November 1994, in Abu Dhabi, in the Culture Foundation. Therefore, until today, and there will be a book next year about, it is by Baghdad University. It is the only artistic group, Arabic artistic group, until today, still exists.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I think basically just touching upon some of these things, there's a beautiful timeline in the exhibition here. I'd really encourage you to take a look at it. That sort of lists this really sort of interesting mix between these independent movements that were happening, but also the beginning of the role of the institution and entities here in the UAE. Nujum, I wanted to take us back as well in the sense of, as I hear you both talking, and it's so interesting to see how both your histories sort of intertwine in that sense. We can feel that there's a sense of multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary collectivity that preceded the scene then. You had your union of artists, poets, writers, translators. It's almost like we would, wish to achieve that level of multidisciplinarity right now, but it was somehow so intuitive and natural in that sense. I wanted to check how did that presence sort of encourage these experimental modes of working? What you were telling us about the different formats that you use, but also the different interactions that you had during that period. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Thank you for this question. I think, as you said, it was very organic, very spontaneous. It wasn't based on academic, although, academically, Hassan Sharif was the graduate person and who came with the academic knowledge, but the rest of us, we had our passion for art. And there were other also younger people were practicing art out of passion. So all these, like all these initiatives, all this passion for art was also individual choice, based on individual choice. So we met. We felt, as Mahmoud was saying, in Abu Dhabi here in the Cultural Foundation, you need to have that sort of community. You need to have that sort of belonging. You belong to a certain group or certain friends or certain place or certain idea. And the early 80s, let's talk about what was on ground, like in that time, still the talk about the traditional versus the modern was, a hot topic. And also philosophy, for example, constructionism and against or versus tradition. So that sort of dialogue was there, and it wasn't, let me say, it wasn't, elegant dialogue. It was brutal dialogue. It was angry dialogue. People, they are not on the same level of understanding. You produce modern art, that means you are against our tradition, our archive, our our identity, the identity that believes in art in terms of two forms, the painting and the sculpture. And anything out of that, outside that form, is something making hocus pocus, or you are ruining the concept of art. And when it comes to poetry, it becomes even harsher. So it was this encounter, like you need to find a place for yourself, a place for your argument. And you are armless. You don't have you don't have your tools. You don't have your when I say tool, that means your culture.
Right.
We were learning. We still were very young.
Yeah.
We needed to learn more, to read more, to have an independent opinion about what we were doing. We had the passion, but the passion wasn't enough at that stage.
Yeah.
So that's why we had this task, we had this responsibility to find to find the roots, to find the resources where we have to teach ourselves, where we have to read and to strengthen ourselves, our argument, so we can reply back, we can respond to that claim.
What were you reading back then?
Fortunately, at the same time, we had a Sharjah book fair. And honestly speaking, it made a huge change, because all of a sudden, you have books from all over the Arab world, and we didn't have also restrictions. So you can read about the different ideologies, and you can read all these books about art, about philosophy, about literature, about the European schools, artistic schools. And that sort of reading helped us understand what do we want to do.
Sharpen your tools.
Sharpen our tools, exactly.
And Mahmoud, in that sense, I mean, we were talking earlier this week, and I was saying, well, we also have to exactly look back at the challenges of these times and not just sort of look romanticizing the past. It surely was challenging. And you said, well, I am a man of future, actually. And can you what are some of the earlier lessons that we can learn from that atelier period, but what can we also build on it?
I just want to add a few points. Nujum, we spoke about friends, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Nujum, mentioned the book fair. And you mentioned very good point. When we talk 70s, 80s, there were issues called taboo. Things you're not supposed to cross. Things are meant to stay. That's one fact. Second fact, when we come to United Arab Emirates, a new country in that time, and we ourselves, I mean, I laugh when they tell me I'm the first or the architect graduate in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. It sounds like I'm 200 years old. I'm a young guy. I'm only 36. It's just 1 month between me and my son, He's going to get older than me for next month. But that's a fact. Therefore, what she mentioned is we group together. I call it the birds, and that's why I like birds. It's like, we cushion together. Not only painters, writers, normal people just been educated, they see things fresh eye. We call them the friends of everybody. Friends of art, yes, as a name or as an Abu Dhabi, but could be in anywhere in UAE. One famous architect and artist and writer, God bless soul, came here, and I was made sure while he's here for 1 year to be his students. I just chased him, called Dr. Qahtan al-Madfa'i. You could Google him. Once upon a time, before I was born, he was the dean of architecture and art of Baghdad University, one of the leading. He lived to be 95. He passed away. They mentioned my name when he graduated from the Sorbonne in the 50s. He got PhD from Oxford. I mean, we were talking about when he came here and was invited culture, and they told me to take him, and I made sure I stick to him for 1 year. He made a sentence, and I made laugh. He said, I love your country because UAE art and culture born running. If you take UAE in the 70 days, you compare it to Iraq, Jordan, Egypt. If you compare it to Kuwait, Kuwait had theaters, movie, to Bahrain. We used to go just to look at the world. Compare it to Qatar and maybe Oman, other Arab country within our age, we are beyond. In the 80s, maybe she can remember with me as a writer and movie, in art, we used to compete them and win awards in the exhibitions when we present the country. Therefore, he came, architecture, that's it. Now, how to do this to listen? First of all, the creativity doesn't end. It's a continuous process to infinity. There are no right, there are no wrong. It's personal opinion. Group of people agree based on a time and a place. The time, place change, decision change. Education is very important information, but you're analyzing, as she mentioned, we used to meet, discuss, and share, is important. Copying doesn't take you anywhere. In the 80s, 70s, we stand head to head. She used a very beautiful word. I agree with her. I wrote something I don't want to mention. I liked her word. We've been in our face. Heard it, saw it. We had work pulled down, but we kept walking, and that's what I tell the future. In fact, the advantage of the resources this country provide, alhamdulillah, and where we are, and accessibility, the education. Hassan Sharif, God bless his study, and he had very number to help who love. I came from America, studied art. I had books that I have to hide it with my wife. She's an American, they take care of it, which show.
Blame it
and
on her.
that's where I group the others. That's role. Therefore, today you could grab and order it in Google, in Amazon. Therefore, there are no excuses. There are no excuses.
I wanted to, as more exhibitions, more publications as well, focus on the formative, years of both the modern and contemporary art in the UAE. I have a question for you both. What, in that sense, are we still missing, noting within these exhibitions or publication? Is there something that we're really missing discussing?
When it's art, I am one of these people. If you tell me what you love in art and architectural, oh, if you come to my house, I have all styles. I loved everything, and I still love everything. If the painting is black, I love it. It's a good quality within the same arrangement. But if I want to paint, I paint my style. But if I collect, appreciate all. And that is called the human nature in my philosophy. We should not focus in a style, because that zoom in. They are one factor, we have to accept it as UAE people. We are not 100 million. Therefore, I would love, like going through this exhibition, most of them, either my generation, all of them in my generation, or maybe a little, maybe up. How many styles? When she asked me about the wall group, we should be maintained. We had classic people, we have people modern, abstract, postmodernism, we had everything.
So document the variety and diversity.
It is maintained. Art is a language, visual language. The alphabet of it is the colors, the line, the mass. If you see it as a decoration, as a style, as a temporary, you lose the soul of it. It's a language, and it is the first language. Art and music. Before a human knows how to speak, he painted in caves. Before he knows how to write poetries and he danced and sang. It's a language, and it is the most powerful language until today.
Nujum, what would you say we're missing?
I don't think we are missing anything in relation to the forms. We fulfilled that. And we have a young generation who is very talented, and they are producing amazing artworks. So I'm not worried about that at all. And also we have the support of the institutions now. We didn't have that privilege when in the early days. So now you have institutions, you have universities, you have initiatives. In Sharjah, in Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Salama Foundation, and Tashkil. We have Sharjah Art Foundation. We have so many initiatives, and we have great institutions here. But we miss something else. I think, and this is something that Dr. Sultan Al-Qasmi once talked about, and some people, they consider him as the art analyst and representative. I think he's a scholar as well, and he writes amazingly about art movement, not only in the UAE, but in the whole Arab world, with that depth of understanding and analyzing what is happening. And I think one of the things that he mentioned earlier was the art scene's connection to the community and the audience. That's what we really need to highlight here if we are, if we want to build something like the ecosystem. We need to build that culture. We need the community to be part of what is happening. And that cycle has to be complete, and it has to be inclusive, not from one side, because this is the balance. You create something for the community, for the audience. The audience has to be educated and very well established to understand what is happening here and to move forward with the art. Not only to think about it as Mahmoud said, a decorative piece of work. It is beyond the decoration. It is much, much beyond the decoration.
I wanted to open the floor to questions as well from the audience, if we have any. Can we please ask you to introduce yourself as well?
Good evening. My name is Shadi Said. I'm not an artist. I wish I can draw like them or do things like that. My question is about, through your journey, this long journey with all these challenges, for sure the main obstacle is that you are working or you are going against the stream sometimes. Currently, about the new artist who's coming now with the, what we call it, the digital art. Before, if you want to do a sculpture or do a paint like that, you will work a lot of time, hard time. You need to redo and to create a lot of things from materials. Now you can see the artist going like with an application. Maybe in 10 minutes, he can go with a big, piece of art. In 1 second, he will do a printout. He will create everything in the 3D printers. So do you think that how we can categorize this as an art, like what you did before?
Thank you. So more about the value, I guess, what entails an artwork in a way. What are your reflections on more sort of newer mediums?
In your question, there are an answer. You mention us, then you ask the future. Future always, any society cannot put the future is number one, is not going. As a human, we should spend 90% thinking about the future and 10% about the present and 1%, let's make it 101. When you use the word we going against the wind or against the current, this is in the eye of the 1% or the 10%. We were not, and I still believe we were not, because we saw where's the current. We read the future. She read the future. She went to study. She read Hassan. Each one passed a message. We collectively, we don't have the internet and all this beautiful data. We had the libraries here, book there. Now the access of information. This is what I meant, not to copy each other. If you cannot read the future as a person, or as a group, or as a society, very soon you will be in the past. We read the future. Therefore, we insisted against what people used to tell us, calm down. No, we insist in it, and every year our number increase. Therefore, for the future, they need to make decision. I don't want to tell them, because it will be what I used to tell the older generation would tell me when we went to Kuwait and to Iraq, and the subject كان الهوية العربية وصار debate on this word. فكان الجواب, don't tell it to me. I wasn't young, and they chose me the secretary of Arab artist and architect in Tunis. الجامعة العربية انتقلت لتونس بذاك الوقت. My recommendation was, don't tell it to me, let me search for it. I'm the youngest one. I was still in 30s and they were in 50s. And the same thing. This is personal, I would like to say. But future is life. Present is now.
Actually, this also makes me think intergenerationally speaking as well, Nujum. You've dabbled with so many different formats as well, media to writing, but I'm wondering about your relationship with your family members as well. I mean, your daughter is an artist as well. So, you know, when you sort of share this sort of formative scene that preceded her in the UAE here, what is sort of her reaction and how does that sort of build your relationship together? Maybe artist to artist as well, not only mother to daughter.
We have that very respectful relationship. She respects me and my art and my area and my generation, and I respect her work, her talent, and we have very beautiful relationship when it comes to art, really. And we used to go to museums together, and the most beautiful thing is to talk about the artworks together and what do we think about it. And this goes also along with films. We think that we have always to move forward, and you know, I like your question about the digital art and the NFT. I think this is the language of now, and it will be, you know, I just want to know how it's going to evolve, how it's going to be, you know, like this is the beginning, and I wish that I can be that futuristic like Mahmoud, to see the future with the eyes of the person who lives now. I can't see that in terms of the digital, because I'm trying to study it now, I'm trying to understand it, and I'm trying, you know, like, to be also positive about it. In my exhibition in Sharjah in 2001, I produced artworks in a digital format before the NFT, you know, like fever became a fever. And that was, you know, a different approach. I just wanted to animate my paintings. I didn't produce them electronically. I didn't produce them as digital copies from the beginning. I painted every piece, and then I played with the animation. And you know, now when someone looks at them, they think they were produced as NFTs, but that wasn't that wasn't the aim. That wasn't the goal. You know, going back to what Mahmoud say, I think as we were, I don't want to use the word the victims of the past. I want to use another positive word. As if we stand against all the challenges of the past. I think today we have to be flexible in accepting any form, and also to be open to any dialogue, and to take part in this dialogue instead of standing against it. And just let's see what is happening. I think this is the beauty of art. It will take us to very interesting areas and, you know, interesting places and concepts. definitely.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Nujum. Thank you, Mahmoud. I wanted to thank you again all for joining us for the Portraits of a Nation to Beyond Narratives talk series. Please do check abudhabifestival.ae for more information on the exhibition and the talk series program. And thank you again for joining us and your time today.